All right, you guys, today for science, we are going to be revisiting the topic of inherited traits and learned behaviors, right? I know we've talked about this previously, but that's okay. We're going to review again because everything for science kind of reviews and repeats as we keep going throughout our schooling, okay? So make sure you're listening to this video before you do the assignment. Might be a little tricky. All right, so let's get started. Inherited traits and learned behaviors. Okay, so if you remember when we went over these two topics from before, then this should be hopefully an easy lesson for you today. All right, so first off, how are inherited traits different from learned behaviors? Okay, what do you think makes them different? Take a minute, pause the video, think about that. How are inherited traits different from learned behaviors? Or what even is inherited traits? What are they? Okay, so a few vocabulary words you need to know is inherited trait, offspring, and learned behavior. Okay, those are a few of the things that we're going to be talking about throughout this PowerPoint. Now, first off, how would you describe yourself? So make a list of 5 different characteristics. It could be about your appearance, it could be about your personality, anything you want it to be. Just make a list of 5 things. So grab a sheet of paper or open up your journal, something. Just make a quick list of 5 things. So if I were to make a list of 5 characteristics about myself, I would say, okay. I would say I'm patient. I have brown hair, I have brown eyes, I have curly hair, and what could be the 5th one? I have smaller teeth. Now that sounds kind of strange to say, but I'll explain those things, okay, a little bit later in the PowerPoint. So I'll try to remember those 5 things that I said, okay? So pause the video, make your list of 5 things. Once you're ready, unpause the video. So with my list of 5 characteristics, right, it's asking us how many of your characteristics could also describe someone in your family. So for me, my list of 5 characteristics, I said I am patient, I have brown hair, brown eyes, curly hair, and then smaller teeth. Now, so for those 5 characteristics or those things that I listed, I can tell you which of my parents I share those traits with. So the patience, I share that with my dad. My dad is a very, very patient person. I can really, literally tell you only one time in my entire childhood that my dad ever got upset with me for something. One time. And he's a very patient man. So I got my patience from him. For my brown hair, I got the brown hair from my mom. My dad actually has blonde hair. Or when he was younger, he had blonde hair. Now his hair is kind of white. The brown eyes, I got the brown eyes from my mom, but hers are a bit darker. The reason my eyes are a little bit lighter is because my dad has blue eyes. So that's where I got my lighter brown eyes from, but I still got the brown from my mom. The curly hair, again, I got from my mom. My mom has very short curly hair, so that's where I got my curly hair from. My dad has straight hair, or straight wavy hair. And then the smaller teeth, again, I got from my mom, or I share that trait with my mom. She has smaller teeth, and my dad has bigger teeth. Okay, so the reason why we're talking about characteristics is because inherited traits are things that you inherit, which means to get from your parents, okay? So that's why they wanted you to make a list of 5 different traits, and they wanted you to think about, of those things you listed, do you have those things in common with anyone in your family? So I just thought of my parents, but I also share some of those traits with my brother. My brother also has brown eyes. He also has brown hair, and he also has kind of curly-ish hair. It's not as curly as mine, but it's curly-ish. Okay, so I do share some of those traits with him, but that's because he inherited some of those traits from my parents. Okay, so let's move on. So let's say that you have brown eyes and you like to skateboard. Well, consider this. Does anyone else in your family have brown eyes or like to skateboard? Well, probably only a few people may like to skateboard, but one of your parents has brown eyes. Your eye color came from your parents, but skateboarding is something that you learned. Not everyone is born just knowing how to skateboard. I wish that would be pretty cool, but no, unfortunately, that is not something we're just born with, okay? That is something that we learn. So we're talking about inherited traits, things we get from our parents, and then learned behavior, the things that we learn throughout our life. All right, can you think of any other examples of learned behavior? Okay, things like brushing your teeth, learning to use the restroom, changing ourselves, changing our clothes. Those are all learned behaviors, all right? Your parents probably taught you how to do every single one of those things. Okay, so let's continue. Humans and other animals are a mix of characteristics from their parents and also of the behaviors that they learned on their own. So like I've said, our appearance comes more from our parents. Those are our inherited traits, the things that are passed down from our parents to us. And that's why we tend to look like our parents and maybe sometimes sound like them. All right. Now, a physical characteristic that is passed from a parent to their baby or offspring is an inherited trait. So things such as eye color, hair color, etc. All right. We inherit those things from our family. Sometimes you can even get them from your grandparents. Maybe your grandparents had blue eyes, your mom had brown eyes, but then when you came around, you had blue eyes, and you probably could have gotten those blue eyes from your grandparents and also from the other side of the family. All right, so in some examples of inherited traits, like I already named a few, but we have eye color, skin color, hair color, curly or straight hair, curly or straight hair, dimples, when you have the small little, I don't know, sometimes I get one here on my face, but not always. Maybe that, I don't know if you count that as a dimple. All right, dimples, freckles, and then your height, okay? So some of you are shorter, some of you are taller. Now, if you're already pretty tall in 4th grade, that probably means both of your parents are pretty tall. All right. If you're still a little bit shorter, don't worry. Y'all will continue growing until you're at least 18 or 19 years old. All right. Freckles. Miss Allen actually has freckles. I still need to bring in that picture of my dad when he was younger. He has freckles all across his face, and that's kind of where I got my freckles from. I got them from my dad. All right. So let's continue. Now, earlobes. I think this was something we talked about last time, the attached or the detached earlobes. It was a little hard to tell. I like this picture, though. This is a good one, a good illustration. So are your earlobes attached to the side of your head, meaning there's no space? They're showing you down there at the bottom right here, if you can see my mouse. If I look at my ears, I have the attached earlobes, okay? They come down and they attach to my face. I don't have that really big open space from my face to my earlobe, okay? So that is an inherited trait. So if you have detached, where you kind of have, or they're calling it a free earlobe, if you have that space in between your ear and your face, that is an inherited trait that you got from either mom, dad, or maybe even grandma or grandpa. Okay, so go home and check your parents' ears and see if your ears match mom or dad, or maybe even grandma and grandpa. All right, now let's move on to inherited behaviors. Okay, so we have inherited traits, but we can also inherit certain behaviors. So remember, for my list, I named patience as one of my first ones. Well, that's a trait or personality trait that I inherited from my dad a bit. All right. He's very patient. I kind of got some of that patience. So it is possible to inherit certain behaviors from parents, but more so when we talk about inherited behaviors, we're talking about instincts in animals. Okay. So, when birds fly south for the winter, nobody sits there and tells them, hey, you need to fly south because it's getting really cold and you need to go find warmer weather. Nobody sits there and tells them that. They just know. Okay? So, many animals, in fact, are born with instincts that help them survive. So, birds flying south, right? Bears hibernating in the winter. Gazelles, when they hear a noise, they instinctively just run away, right? That's called the fight or flight instinct. They sense danger and so they just leave, okay? Inherited behavior. Here are some examples. So we talked about the birds flying south for the winter, right? That's a main one, right? Nobody taught these animals how to do that. Another thing could be when, when turtles pull their head back into their shell. That's an instinct. Nobody taught them to do that. They just naturally do it. When they get scared, they pull their head into their shell. They know that's their safe place and they're good to go. That's an instinct. All right? Birds protect their eggs and babies by instinct, right? Some species. I guess I should make that a point. Not every single animal does. Frogs aren't born with this instinct. So there you go. There's a perfect example. So birds protect their eggs and babies by instinct. So that's something that they just do automatically. Nobody tells them they need to do it. But frogs, on the other hand, are not born with this instinct. They lay the eggs and then they leave them to either hatch or die on their own. They don't go back and check. They just lay them and they're like, good luck to you. All right. Can you think of any other examples? Okay. Now, moving on to learned behaviors. So we talked about inherited traits and instincts, which are inherited behaviors. We're going to talk about learned behaviors. Okay. So are you better at using the computer than some of the adults in your family? If so, you learned how to do this. You didn't inherit that behavior from your parents. You didn't inherit just knowing how to type. You had to learn, right? We learn many behaviors every single day. These behaviors include how to make a sandwich, maybe doing a certain type of sport like soccer, baseball, volleyball, and even our manners, being polite to other people, saying yes ma'am, no ma'am, thank you sir, no sir, or even the kind of tone and the way we talk to people. Those are learned behaviors, okay? Someone teaches us how to talk to others. Now, I have a question for you. Can animals learn behaviors? All right, if you said yes, you are correct. Animals can learn behaviors. Think of dogs. Now, for example, my dog, June, she's an Australian Shepherd. She's a blue merle Australian Shepherd, and I've had her since she was a puppy. She knows how to sit, lie down, shake, touch an object if I tell her to, and we tried to work on the roll over, but she didn't get it quite that well. So she knows, I'm going to say 4 tricks, okay? Now, do you think she just knew how to do those things, or did I probably teach her how to do those things? Yeah, I taught her how to do those things, okay? So I use treats. So yes, definitely, animals can learn behaviors. Dogs, cats, seals, pigs, even mice and rats. I've seen that too. Birds, animals can learn all sorts of different behaviors, okay? So dogs can learn how to catch a Frisbee. Killer whales, or we know them as Shamu at SeaWorld, can learn how to jump out of the water on command. And then lions learn to hunt. It is not something they're born with. They learn to hunt. The mother lion teaches the cubs, hey, this is how you hunt. Yes, it's an instinct that they want to eat and hunt, or that they want to eat something, but in order for them to be good hunters, they have to learn by watching their mom. All right, so as a review, what was an inherited trait? Try to think about it. If you don't remember, go back to the PowerPoint. What's a behavior? What's an instinct? And what are learned behaviors? All right, you guys, go ahead and try completing the assignment for today.